Joining us right now is Congressman Chip Roy from the Republic of Texas. Always good to speak with you. Hope you're doing well, staying healthy, not having too much cabin fever. What is I have to ask you, what is the latest with everybody reconvening in Washington, D.C.? Because we were told that first that Democrats were maybe perhaps going to come back on Thursday. What is going to happen? Are they ever going to come back?
Well, thanks, Dana. I hope you and your family are doing well, too. We're blessed to live on 10 acres, so our cabin fever is not as bad. Our kids are able to run around and we're able to shoot guns under Texas law, as you well know. So we're having some fun when we can. But I'm trying to work hard every day, trying to do what you're just talking about, which is getting our economy reopened, getting our society, our communities reopened. I'm flying to D.C. in about 2 hours. We will have a roll call vote tomorrow, I believe, although it's still fluid, on just the funding mechanism, maybe one other bill. But I don't believe that we're going to vote on they were going to do something with proxy voting or changing how we operate. Bottom line is we're going to have no amendments. We're going to have no real discussion. We're going to have no real committee work. We're going to spend another $470 billion on a bill that was basically negotiated by Mnuchin and Schumer with a little bit of Pelosi, and it's coming over to the House, and we literally have no ability to amend it. So I'm going to have to put out a statement like many other conservatives saying, well, I'm going to hold my nose and vote for this, I think. I'm still debating that, but I'm leaning towards voting for it, and say that, look, there are a lot of problems in this bill we got to fix, but they give you a take it or leave it proposition. And I've got businesses in the district I represent who are currently on the outside looking in when the government has basically shut down their ability to have commerce. And they're kind of saying, guys, I need help. It's like eminent domain, right? The government has stepped in and taken away their livelihoods. So we're in a conundrum, and we need to be in D.C. debating, voting, looking at testing, looking at all the ways that we need to be up and running and operating and get our economy going again. We have to. Yeah,
we absolutely have to. I can't. We're seeing stories of hospital chains now that are suffering because they were anticipating having, and they were told this, and this is what the IMHE models were forecasting, that was even with the social distancing, that they were going to have an onslaught of patients. And I've been hearing from a number of different administrators across the country. They will surreptitiously email or they might comment on Facebook somewhere, but they're not seeing at all what they thought they would be seeing, and they have to turn everyone else away right now just because of the way everything is being run. And so they're losing a lot of money. We have this, and then, of course, we're talking to Congressman Chip Roy. We saw the oil, the insane drop in that was all about May futures, but the price of crude for the deadline that was yesterday of this week. What and the effect that had on the market, and what that means for gas prices, and what that's going to mean for supply and et cetera. How, in the big scheme of things, when you saw that take place, because obviously we have nowhere to put the oil, we have the overproduction of oil, we have nowhere to put it, but doesn't that signify just how far-reaching the consequences of a decision like shutting down the American economy are, and how concerned are you, not just for the state of Texas, but also the overall economic health of the country because of that instability that we saw in oil the other day?
Well, Dana, there's no question that there's far-reaching impacts of what we're actually experiencing with the economic shutdown. Unfortunately, we've got a bunch of frankly, privileged people who go down and shop at Whole Foods and drink their lattes and hang out and get on their friggin' Peloton bikes at home, who are basically saying, oh, stay shut down. There's no problem. Stay shut down. The government will take care of everybody. And meanwhile, we got real people hurting. They don't have the first clue, because they don't understand economics 101, what is happening that's crippling our hospitals, because we're telling doctors that they can't actually perform preventative care and elective surgeries, which funds hospitals. We're going to cripple our education system and our hospital system while we cripple our oil and gas industry, because nobody's buying gas products, because we're not driving and flying, and we're not doing the things we need to do to keep our economy going. We're crippling the small businesses, restaurants, barbershops, the people that are the backbone of our economy, because everybody's just kind of walking their hands away going, oh my gosh, well, I guess we've got a virus. We've got to just shut down our entire livelihoods. And they're completely ignoring the reality of what that means, that in Austin, Texas, the Threadgills, which has been here for 50 years or whatever, is shutting down, where Janis Joplin had her first paid gig. We've got Magnolia, 24-hour diner that's been there for 40 years, shutting down. Ben's Chili Bowl in Washington, D.C., an institution that survived the riots after the assassination of Martin Luther King. It's having trouble and shutting down. So we've got to figure out how to get our economy re-going. And frankly, we can't sit around waiting for some magic number of tests. The testing is increasing. We've had 4 million tests conducted. And if you think about what that means, we only had about 300,000 tests that had been done about a month ago in March. We've been ramping up, getting tests going. People are having to re-engage, looking at the data and looking at the modeling nationwide, understanding that it has not been as bad as people were fearing, that while we pray for the people in New York who have been getting hammered, that we need to look at our ability heading into the summer of being able to be out and about, wear masks, socially distance. Look, I walk into Home Depot, McCoy's, HEB. They got 6-foot tape lines. You go get your thing, you stand back, you go through your line, and you get out. We can find a way to get our businesses back and running, but we got to do it now.
Yeah.
We got to get people driving. We got to get people doing things, and otherwise we're going to just hammer people, and people have no idea how bad that'll be for real estate, oil and gas, and our overall economy if we don't do it soon.
I think you and others have been making good points, because you bring up all of the people that are totally fine with everything staying shut down are the people that are still getting paychecks. These are the people that it really hasn't changed for them, or maybe they work from home, and those people seem to be the loudest in wanting to keep everything shut down, and they don't realize the real health the negative implications that could come from this. I mean, yesterday I had a headline about the increase in anxiety prescriptions, antidepressant medication, sleep aids, all of this stuff. We're going to see we don't even know what the effects are going to be in terms of mental health of teenagers who've had everything taken away from them, kids who have been shut inside. They have, their whole spring taken away from them. Why no one seems to include that in there at all when they're talking about the cost of to health, because that's a real problem too. I think Birx actually said something about this, or Fauci, the other day.
Dana, I'm really glad you mentioned that. Going all the way back on March 20th, I wrote an op-ed in National Review saying we need to have a date certain to get our economy going, because it was obvious how bad our economy would be hammered. In early April, on April 6th, I think, I wrote an op-ed in Fox News outlining everything you just talked about, saying, look, we need to be mindful of suicide rates that increase after the 2008-9 Great Recession, the opioid addiction that compounded, the crime that followed, the negative impact on people's health and stress when you have unemployment rates that are high and their businesses are shut down. Now we've got it on the nth degree, where we've got people who are, told to, stay in their homes. We've got people who are isolated, depression that can go up. The negative health effects of what we're doing in many ways may well outstrip the negative health effects of whatever the virus may perpetrate against us. And I wrote an op-ed yesterday in San Antonio Express News about my father, who is 77. He has a tracheostomy. He can barely walk today. He gets around, but it's struggling. He's a polio survivor from 1949, when they were going through iron lungs, and when we had 20,000 children die during that time frame and 300,000 get inflicted. People were afraid. It was a big deal. But we didn't close our society down. We adjusted a little bit. We might shut down a park where they thought they might spread it in pools. You adjust a little bit, but you don't shut down your entire society.
Right.
Shutting it down for a week or two to flatten the curve to get our hospitals up and running, or to get our healthcare system ready to deal with it if we need to, okay, fine. But dadgummit, we got to get back in the saddle. We got to get going, and we need to get our economy going again so that we can reengage. And it's our society, it's our churches, it's our communities, it's our interaction. We're people that need to interact. And my dad said to me, look, the pursuit of happiness means something. I'm not seeing my son's Little League games. I'm 77 years old. With the time I have left on this planet, I want to see my granddaughter's swim meets and my grandson's baseball games. And he's not able to do that. And that's a problem, right? That's harming people.
Right. And this is something that is not given enough acknowledgement, the real serious impact that all of that causes as well. As the administration, and I kind of get the idea that there's a little, and I think it's good. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. That it's good that there's a tension between where the health professionals want to go and the economists, and they're working together to get the best for the American people. That's a good thing. One of the things that came out of that, the president's executive order from yesterday, wherein he is stopping at this point immigration, and there's certain caveats to that. And I think it makes sense. You don't, first off, you don't, what are we told? That we have few resources. So why would we bring in more people when we have fewer resources? And also it makes sense when you have individuals, so many Americans that are out of work. What are they going to do in the meantime? You don't want to give jobs away that Americans could use. Isn't that kind of the job of the president? Isn't that what the president, the administration, Congress is? Shouldn't everyone have that priority? I don't understand, talking to Congressman Chip Roy, why this is such a controversial thing.
It really shouldn't be. And I'm going to give a shout out to my good friend, Jeff Sessions, who's obviously a candidate for senator again in Alabama. And he's a friend of mine and I support him. But Senator Sessions former Senator Sessions is right in making this point. The president is right in executing on making sure that we slow down the flow. I mean, he's saying a shutdown, although I think that got watered down a little bit, but making sure that we're focusing on the jobs at hand that we've got in the United States, what's available. And when we've got 22 million people unemployed and we're just the tip of the iceberg of what we're doing economically, and we're talking about continuing the flow in, that makes no sense. And right now, if you go look at the state of our border, we still have, I mean, while it's massively better than it was a year ago, and we have, 100 people in detention facilities on the border instead of 30,000 on a given day, we still have 500 a day who are being apprehended, Dana.
Golly.
500 a day still being apprehended. We still have a couple of hundred who are getting through, according to the Border Patrol people that I talked to just 2 days ago. We still have a significant amount of fentanyl and dangerous narcotics coming to the United States. And so we've got to continue to be vigilant about this, and we ought to have a true rethinking of our entire immigration system. And right now is the time to do it.
Yeah.
We should have done that right after 9/11. We should do it now. Rethink how we do immigration. And we should focus on America first, and that includes a vibrant immigrant community. But we've got to do it wisely. And right now we should focus on the jobs that we need to have here for Americans.
Yeah, you're right. We should have done it, especially right after 9/11. Last quick question for you, Congressman. I know you've been seeing so many stories of overreach by a lot of other locally elected officials, statewide elected officials, and the protests that have been taking place. Because and I always stress to people, the protests are never against the stay-at-home order. I think these are good people that were fine complying with reasonable guidelines. But it's when you start banning things like the ability to just get, for instance, to grow your own garden, or when you're arresting moms on the playground, that's a little bit too far. What is there anything that, and I know Bill Barr, the AG, came out with a statement saying that a lot of this stuff just wouldn't pass the constitutional muster if in a court of law. But I mean, what can be done to maybe perhaps limit the abuse of this authority by so many of these tiny tyrants that you keep seeing across the country?
The most important thing that can be done, obviously, is for those of us to speak out against it. I've been trying to. Every time I see it, I will note that Senator Cruz has been doing a great job of that as well. Everywhere we see this, call it out. Call it out as the petty tyranny that it is. We need to have more of our police departments, like I saw in Houston. I just saw this morning a tweet where the Houston police, I can't remember what they call it, union association, their group down there, said they're not going to follow that ridiculous order by I don't know, was the county judge or who it was,
yeah,
but
Linda Hidalgo,
everybody wear a mask.
Yes.
Right. They're not going to go around and police it. Right. Well, good for them. They should say that. They should do that. The sheriff in Hays County, where I live, southwest of Austin, he said, look, I'm not going to go around and police, moms driving their babies around to sleep in the car or, to go pick up something. I'm going to go check on people to see where they're going. We don't live in a police state. A Maine sheriff did the same thing. We need law enforcement to do that, and we need to applaud them. We need to encourage that, and we need to tell politicians to quit being the gutless cowards that they are, in which they hide behind these kinds of draconian measures so that they can try to save face that they're doing something to help people when, in fact, they're harming them. There's no real evidence that locking us all up in our houses is actually making us safer. Distancing is making sure that we're not right on top of each other. Maybe wearing masks in certain circumstances is helping, but locking down in houses, there's no obvious benefit to that. Sweden and the data we're seeing there, when you compare that to Michigan, for example, Sweden is doing far better than Michigan, where there's far more lockdowns going on by that crazy governor in Michigan. So we need to look at the data, look at the models, and make good decisions. Bottom line is, as people, we own this country. We the people. Don't let these petty dictators run your lives.
Amen to that. Congressman Chip Roy from the amazing Republic of Texas, and good on Houston police officers. I'm glad you retweeted that as well, that statement from them. Always good to talk with you, Congressman, and stay safe, especially as you're traveling, and definitely wear face masks when you're around certain individuals in the House.